All right. Hi. I'm Chelsea. I am the senior graphic designer here at RevRoad.
Hey, I'm Connor. I'm the UI UX designer or user interface, user experience designer.
And so today we are going to be talking about the art of building an app. So some of you might be needing an app and some of you might not be needing an app. So we'll just kind of go through the information here. So the first question we're going to ask is, why would you need an app? There's typically two reasons why you need an app. The first one being that you have a mobile-specific idea, and the second one being that you have a supplemental idea. So we're going to break this down a little bit further.
So the first category of apps, mobile-specific apps. What do we mean by this? So we'll take Angry Birds as the first example. So it all started with Angry Birds, the mobile gaming industry, hit the moon. Companies were saying, wow, we could really make some money off this. Why? Because people want a game on the go. So it really became a quick phenomenon, and that's where Angry Birds, Candy Crush, and all these other games started. Then we have apps like Waze or Snapchat. So Waze, you're not gonna bring your laptop in the car with you to get directions to work. And Snapchat, it's all about capturing the moment on the go. You're not sitting at your house watching Netflix. That's not when you're living your best life. You wanna snap it at a concert, at a venue, when you're out and about. So these are what we call mobile-specific apps.
Okay. And then the supplemental apps here, we've selected Walmart, JetBlue, and Chase Banking. So what these have in common is that they're already established businesses, and then they were able to create an app to put their accessibility more into their users' hands. So whether it is banking or traveling, department stores, grocery shopping, all of these are available at your fingertips anywhere. So these are just two things to consider if you are thinking about creating an app, which category they fall into, and then the purpose of why you would like to create that app. Okay, so coming from a design aspect, as a designer, I am in charge of putting these assets together and preparing them for somebody like Connor to get this app designed. So my question to you guys, if you're thinking about designing an app, is it ready? Now, some of you might be thinking that it is because you have a logo. That's nice. But there actually is a little bit more that's involved with that. What you'll need to hand it off is you'll need a logo, you need a font choice, you need color and visualization, okay? I'm going to go through like a basic walkthrough of all of this content information. Obviously, each of these could probably deserve their own presentation, but we're just going to go through some basics here. So let's start with our logo. We're going to choose Walmart as our brand guide because they're the third largest retailer in the world, and they are very popular, well-known, and super recognizable. So I think they'd be a perfect company to kind of break down and understand their color choices, their logo, and their visualization. So, number one, the logo. What's important to have before you hand it off to somebody like Connor or anybody else that's using your brand is understanding your logo, why you have it, and how to use it. So that's the most important thing. Yeses and nos, rights and wrongs, do's and don'ts, okay? You need to understand how to use your logo and how not to use your logo, because if you hand it off to somebody and you don't have creative boundaries, somebody with creative liberties could take it off and head in a completely different direction that doesn't really line up with your brand. So make sure you have your rights and your wrongs specified, okay? Next, we're going to talk about our fonts. Selecting a font that represents your brand is really important. What this does is it keeps it very universal across the board. So all of your marketing materials, your website, anything that your brand touches should have a consistent font. It builds up credibility, it builds up trust, and it builds up consistency. Okay? So once you have that consistency down, your users and people who are kind of becoming more loyal to your brand start to trust it a lot more. So we're going to talk about Walmart's choice, which is the Boggle font. And what they do here is that they pick something that was versatile, that can go across a ton of different emotions in their marketing. It's friendly and it's modern. And they went a little bit further to specify that they like to have their font left aligned. Now, you can specify that. You don't have to specify that, but Walmart chose to. So any given chance, they try to keep it very consistent with it being left aligned. Of course, with any rule, it can be broken just a little bit, and sometimes you'll see it center aligned, but mostly left aligned. All right, next we're going to go over color. So Walmart's colors, they have 5 colors that they work with primarily, okay? They have their Walmart blue, their dark blue, white, yellow, and pink. And you can see it laid out here in 2 different ways. So the first one, they go by the dark blue hierarchy. So if they have a dark blue background, what they do for their hierarchy is they have a white complementary, their Walmart blue as their support, and then their pink and their yellow as their accents. If they're going with a completely white background, they go with a Walmart blue with a dark blue accent, pink and yellow. If they decided they wanted to go with a Walmart blue background, then as you can imagine, the pink and the yellow are probably going to be very consistent in how much their accents, and then it's up to them if they want to decide that the white is going to be the primary accent to the Walmart blue, and then the dark blue an accent to that. So just understanding that hierarchy. Lastly, and most importantly, visualization. So here we're going to talk about whether you're going to use photography or illustration, and what's the difference between both. So photography is typically used for big energy moments to convey emotion, something that's like human-to-human interaction, okay? Something that you can relate to. When you have your visualizations for illustration, this is supposed to portray a concept or an idea, something that would be otherwise very hard to develop with photography, okay? So I'm going to break this down a little bit further. We're just going to study a little bit more about their brand illustrations and what they've chosen. So just to kind of move through this part a little bit quickly, what we've chosen are like 3 ideas that Walmart has used, and this is supposed to convey whimsical, playful, witty kind of illustrations. And again, it's just supposed to convey messages that would be otherwise really hard to pick with photography. So for instance, if we look at that bottom one, teamwork, working together with an arrow moving in the same universal direction, okay? And then somehow someone doing yoga and able to relax at the same time while they're reading. I can't do that. I don't know if you guys can do that, but that would be really hard. Okay, so secondly, the photography style. So this part here, again, big energy moments. So talking about bright, joyful, optimistic. These are the 3 key words that Walmart tries to stick to in all of their photography messaging. So if you look consistently, this whole idea that Walmart brings this joy and this optimism and brightness, totally the feeling that you get whenever you walk into a Walmart, right? Okay, so we're looking at this. And we're going to talk about some of the combinations here. So this is how they utilize their messaging, whether it be through their digital advertisements, print advertisements, website, or video messaging, whatever it is. Again, as you can primarily see, left-aligned text, and they have that dark blue background with that white font in the foreground. And then just briefly going to focus on the left-aligned, the Innovate with Heart. So this is talking about giving students an opportunity, careers into the technology field, and doing that with care and heart. And so what better way to do that with an illustration that use a computer grid-like design, and then using a heart to convey care. And then if we're looking at the top one, better living starts here. Big energy moment, some guy jumping into a pool, but again, you can't get that without going to Walmart, am I right? Okay. So just to reiterate, you want to make sure you have your logo and the correct usages, rights and wrongs, your colors selected, and probably go a little bit further, establish your color hierarchy. It will go a long way. Establishing your font, understanding what's going to be used consistently throughout. And then lastly, deciding on your visualization. And you might be also just contemplating between your visualization and whether you should be more photography-based or illustration-based. It's kind of up to your company and depending on what it is that you guys are selling. And that's something that we can either further talk about later or with your own marketing team. That's something that you guys will have to figure out. All right, so we're going to do a case study here with Zenbase. And Zenbase was actually created by our very own Connor Chase. All right, so here, just to show off the assets that we would have to hand over, we have our logo, the color selections, the type, and also we've taken some mock-ups of Instagram posts, and just to give this idea of this futuristic digital cryptocurrency-like designs, okay? So we have kind of an understanding of this futuristic feeling that we're conveying. And then to hand it off, I'm giving the assets over to our app designer.
Okay. Thank you, Chelsea. Everything Chelsea just mentioned is super important for the first steps of creating an app. And if you're working with a graphic designer, do not ever tell them that the designs are bad. Just don't do it. I'm just kidding. She's great.
Okay.
But who here has, by show of hands, who's wanted to build an app before? Yeah? Okay, most people in this room came to the right review. So let's, I guess I'll just introduce what Zenbase is real quick. So it's basically a meditation app that pays you to meditate with cryptocurrency. So why is Zenbase an app? I don't know. Apps are just the go-to for meditation companies. It's, like I said before, it's kind of hard to lug your laptop with you everywhere you go. If you're outside, you don't really want to bring your computer outside in the Utah desert heat. So if you want to meditate anywhere, it just gives you the liberation to meditate outside, the gym, the sauna, etc. So typically, most meditation companies, they use a mobile solution. So there are 4 main steps to creating an app. The first is ideation and wireframing. The second is creating your low and high fidelity mockups. The third is then creating those in a prototype and giving them animation and life. The fourth is just iterating and testing your designs with actual users, and that's the most important step. So we'll get into the first step, which is the ideation phase. So all of you have an idea maybe for a mobile app, or at one point you did. The first step is just to get those thoughts on a piece of paper. So you want to get a blank sheet of paper, fold it up into 8 separate squares. And for each square, you want to spend a minute on them. And what you do in each square is you just roughly draw what your app could look like, what features could be on the app, what do you want your users to use your app for, etc. So you just roughly sketch these 8 boxes, and then you can even do this with other people in a group setting, and you mishmash, pick your favorite boxes, and then this will eventually, these components will be on your app. Now, there are other exercises that you can do. What I like to do with Chelsea here at RevRoad is just go on a whiteboard and, put some sticky notes like, Chelsea, what could be on the app here? What could be on this meditation app? What could be on this food delivery app? So there are multiple ways to do this. These are called crazy eights. This is what I like doing. Now, the second step is translating those thoughts into a digital setting. So this is the wireframing process. At RevRoad, we use Figma. It's a design tool. It's completely free to use. Highly recommend it. So you just want to kind of lay out the skeleton of the app. So even just drawing like little gray rectangles for, buttons are going to be here, profiles are going to be here. It's just laying out the app. Now, the second step kind of gets more fun for a creative nerd like me. It's called low and high fidelity mockups. And we take these wireframes and we kind of get more detailed. And you can see here that we have some user fields, some password fields, some buttons with text on them. So kind of getting more granular in the design here. Then we get even more granular, and this is where you just let your creative juices flow, and this is where Chelsea's part comes in handy. You want your brand colors, your font faces, what font size you're going to use, where you're going to use everything. So having that brand guide before you actually start the app creation process is so critical. So thank you, Chelsea. Third step is taking these high fidelity mockups and turning it into an actual prototype. Now, this is really useful for developers. Your devs will love you if you can show what happens when you click this button, what happens when you scroll down on the screen, what happens when you click this user field. So you kind of want to think of every possible scenario that could happen when you click this button, and it'll really help the development process speed up. Last step, most important step. If you didn't listen to anything today, I hope you take this away. But after you're done designing, you want to iterate on the designs and test them with real users. So I'll just make this point. You might be great at design, you might do your thing, but you are not your users. You might have this idea built up in your head that might be super fantastic, but then you sit it in front of a user and they're like, oh, what's this? I don't know what to do. And you don't want that to happen. So what we like to do is we like to set up one-on-one tests with, Could be friends, family, or even community members. The best people to do it with are early adopters of your product, the people who are most interested in your product. So we usually sit them down in front of like a Zoom call. Could be in person is great, but you just want to like observe their behaviors or a reaction they have. Or what you could even do is like give them a simple set of subtasks to do, and you just want to see if there's any friction in that flow. And then once you're done with that, you of course want to go back, iterate on your design, and it just becomes this whole feedback loop. So very smart man, Seth Robinson, he says to test your designs. I might listen to Seth. So we don't have time. I would love to be able to show you like 5 minutes how to actually, build the app from scratch, but I'm just going to give you these pointers. So especially for iOS, there's some standard components that you have to have, such as that top status bar with the clock and the bottom, like the home widget. So like I mentioned before, Figma is a great tool to get started, and they have this whole wide range of community files that people just upload for free. And most of the time, they'll have these components on there, so you could just copy, paste, beep, boop, beep, and you're off to building your app pretty quick. So the next step, the last step, is to hand off to developers. Bruce, where are you? He's not here? Okay. Oh, hey, man. So this is the guy who I hand my designs off to after Chelsea hands her brand stuff off to me. Yeah, and with Figma, the super cool thing about it is it'll give you like hex codes. It'll take your designs and kind of pump out some code just so your developers can see like, okay, this button's on X coordinate and Y coordinate, so it's really handy. And lastly, good luck submitting it to Apple. So let me just, good luck. So there are 4 main steps. I'll just repeat them again. Ideate and wireframe, create your low and high fidelity mockups, prototype, iterate, and then test with your users. So thank you guys. We're here for questions.